Even a faithful man like Abraham, who had just answered God's call, faced a big fear. He made some tricky choices just to survive. It shows how people can be a little weak. But it also shows how God stepped in when no one expected it. Welcome. We're here to explore old stories.
That's right. Today, we're diving into Jewish stories. They come from the very beginning, the origin cycle. This episode comes right from Jewish tradition, from a book called the Tanakh. It's the 12th episode in our series.
Yes, and we've got a story and a quiet reflection time for you. It's just right, about 12 to 18 minutes long. That's a great length to really dig into it.
Our main Bible story comes from Genesis chapter 12, verses 10 to 20. As always, we hope you'll read the whole story either before or after we talk about it.
For this episode, we'll focus on just one or two special verses. But reading the whole thing is always a good idea. It helps us understand all the little details.
Here's what this episode is all about. We'll tell you how Abraham went down to Egypt. And we'll see how this story fits into the bigger Bible picture. We'll talk about new beginnings, making our own choices, and how God connects with people.
Our goal is to make this old story come alive. We want to show its human and spiritual lessons, and how it can still mean something to us today. It's not just a story from long ago.
To do this, we'll follow our plan. We'll start with a question about people. Then we'll look at the Bible background, the story itself, a big turning point, what it means spiritually, and how it applies to us today. Finally, we'll have our conclusion.
So, let's jump right into it. What does Abraham's story in Egypt tell us? What about our own choices when we're scared? What about what we expect when things are new or unknown? And how do we feel about God when everything seems to be falling apart?
That's a wonderful question to start with. This story isn't just about something that happened long, long ago. It shows us how people felt and acted, and those feelings are still true today, thousands of years later.
To help us understand, this story is found in the very first book of the Bible, called Genesis. It happens right after God told Abraham to leave his home. It's super important for understanding who Abraham is and what he does in the whole Bible.
Before this part of the story, God had promised Abraham something amazing. He said Abraham would have a big family, like a whole nation, and be a blessing to many. Abraham listened to God's call. He left his home in Haran and traveled to Canaan with his family and all his things.
The main people in our story are Abraham and his wife, Sarai. Abraham was the family leader, the patriarch. He believed in God's promise. But, as we'll see, he also felt a very human fear, just like we sometimes do.
They were in Canaan, the land God promised them. But then, a really bad famine hit the land. There wasn't enough food. This made Abraham decide to go to Egypt to find help. So, the story has a big problem. God made a promise, but real life was very, very hard. It was about survival.
These important details help us understand the story better. They set the scene without giving us too many little things to remember. Now we're ready for the main part.
Okay, let's tell the story from Genesis chapter 12, verses 10 to 20. A terrible famine came to the land of Canaan. It was so bad that Abraham had to go down to Egypt to live there for a while. He needed to do this to survive.
Yes, and just before they reached Egypt, Abraham told Sarah, his wife, "Look, I know you are a very beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they'll say, 'That's his wife.' Then they might kill me, but let you live."
So he asked her, "Please say you are my sister. That way, I will be treated well because of you, and my life will be spared thanks to you." This was a decision made out of fear. He was trying to save his own life.
And sure enough, when they arrived in Egypt, the Egyptians saw how beautiful Sarah was. Pharaoh's important officials saw her too. They told Pharaoh how lovely she was. So, Sarah was taken to Pharaoh's palace.
Because of Sarah, Pharaoh treated Abraham very well. Abraham received many gifts. He got sheep, oxen, donkeys, and servants. He even got female donkeys and camels. Abraham became very rich because of this trick.
But the Lord sent terrible plagues upon Pharaoh and his household. This happened because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. This is where the story changes. It shows God stepping in to fix something unfair.
Pharaoh then called for Abraham. He said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister'? Because of that, I took her to be my wife."
Pharaoh finished by saying, "Here is your wife. Take her and go." Pharaoh gave orders to his people about Abraham. They sent him away, along with his wife and everything he owned. It was like being sent away, but it also kept them safe.
The most important part of this story is when God stepped in. He sent plagues on Pharaoh and his household. This is God's action. It gives the whole event its real meaning.
Exactly. The characters are in big trouble. Abraham could die and Sarah could be shamed. But Pharaoh also risks God's anger for taking the wife of a man God protected.
They learned something very important. Abraham learns God protects him, even when he lacks faith, even when he tries to trick people. Pharaoh learns Abraham's wife has special protection from God.
Abraham and Sarah are spared. They are sent away with all their belongings. God's promise is not broken, even though Abraham made a mistake. It's like starting over, but they learned a big lesson.
The consequences go beyond just their story. It shows that God keeps his promises, even when his people make mistakes. It also hints at other times God will step in to protect Abraham's family.
This story helps us understand a lot. It tells us about God, about people, and about his special promise. It shows our weaknesses, but also God's amazing faithfulness.
From a human side, we see Abraham's fear. He tried to trick people to survive. That was definitely a mistake. But we also see Sarah's bravery and how Abraham changed. Even with his mistakes, God still protected him.
Spiritually, this story shows God is always there. His justice steps in to protect his people. And his mercy means he doesn't take back his promise, even when people fail. God is always working, even in dark times.
From a Bible story view, this event prepares us for future steps. It's part of God's big rescue plan. It shows how weak God's chosen people can be, and how much they need God to step in. It lays the groundwork for the rest of his special promise.
We shouldn't just read this story simply. It doesn't say Abraham's trick was good. Instead, it helps us see the struggle between believing and being scared. It shows God is still in charge, even when we make mistakes.
Today, this story helps us think about big choices in our own lives. It's about when things change, or when we start fresh. Haven't we all had to make a tough choice because we were scared or felt forced?
We can all see a bit of ourselves in the story. Maybe we acted from fear instead of trust. Or maybe we faced problems because of our own little tricks.
It asks us to think about what needs a decision or change in our lives. What's that big hunger inside us that makes us do things? Things that might not be what we truly believe is right.
So, why not pick one simple thing to do this week? Maybe it's trusting someone, or admitting you need help, or just reading this Bible story again and thinking about it.
To wrap up, Abraham's trip to Egypt reminds us of something important. Even with all our human choices, our weaknesses, and our ups and downs, a bigger story is always happening. It's the story of God's never-ending faithfulness.
That's a really powerful lesson, I assent it. We hope this episode helped you think about some new things. Next week, we'll keep exploring the beginning stories with another exciting episode.
Finally, we'd like to share this prayer with you. Dear God, please help us understand your word. Through Abraham's story, help us see our own struggles. Help us hear your call and move forward with more truth, trust, and faithfulness. Amen.
Now, what's your biggest question after hearing about Abraham in Egypt? Please share your thoughts with us. Thanks for listening along. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episodes.